Hey everybody, we're at the Midwest Gaming Classic 2019 edition.
Hi.
There's Kathleen. We're going upstairs to start buying stuff at the vendor hall. We're gonna take some video. I'm gonna go around and show you some. I'm gonna basically narrate all the videos, so I'm gonna shoot it all.
Y'all have your wristbands?
Yep, she has them on. Basically what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna narrate the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to record video, and then I'm going to basically just go through and film it, and then I'm going to narrate it later on. So yeah, that's how it's going to go. I'm on an escalator right now, by the way. So as we got off the escalator, we saw Artist Alley here. This guy has a lot of posters displayed from old retro games, which were really cool. Heading down here, I talked to this guy for quite a while. I think his name was Archie. He said hello to me there, and he did his own artwork. Really cool. I looked through all of his drawings. Got some more people that I was saying hello to and waving at me. That was really nice to see them greeting everybody. As we just go along, here's just some more artwork here. Everyone's getting most of their stuff set up at this point. This is like right as the convention was starting on Saturday, so not too much had been set up yet. They were still getting stuff set up at this point. There's a little arcade game that you could play here, so you can play some fighting games. They were getting that set up for people to try out. Some looks like some comic books here, comic book artwork being shown off. Sorry if I didn't get in here too close and look at it all. And then you had a chance to win a car as well. But I did not enter, so I did not win. I mean, I already had a vehicle, so I wasn't going to take another one home with me. And heading down to the last part here, just outside the main halls, there's a Garcade here where you could play some video games. There's a kid playing Super Mario World, and on the other screen you could play GoldenEye 007 was set up. Oh, and yeah, that kid died. He didn't do a very good job in that portion, I guess. And then there's the big Midwest Gaming Classic scene here. You could stand behind and get your picture taken. That's very, very big and very well done also. And there was some food over here too. There was Wild Bill's Old Fashioned Soda Pop. And then just next to it was, if I get the camera over there, I guess there was a lot of pop I was showing off there. You get your own mugs too. Jersey Mike's was set up for us to have some lunch if you wanted it. Continuing on now, we're now in the vendor hall. This was where you could play board games and sit down and just hang out with your friends. Like I said, not a lot of people set up there yet just because the convention had just started, and we actually were able to get in a little bit early before everybody else, so the vendor hall was not too crowded yet. But that was the big area where you could play tabletop games. So you could just go pull one off the shelf over there and pick it up and play with your friends. Guy walking around there with a Pikachu hat. This was really cool. They had Jurassic Park vehicles set up. They were just getting these set up too. There was more to them later in the day. They actually had like board games and all the video games of Jurassic Park set up. The guy did, but you could see this is the part. This is the one that was used to take him around the park without a driver, and then the other one here was the one that brought him into the park originally. And you got a little dinosaur hanging out the window. This is just looking around at the vendors here, just showing off kind of some of the things they had. I know I didn't get up too close. I didn't want to get in anybody's way while they were looking and buying some stuff. The first guy here I was showing, if you looked back there at the beginning, he had like some Nintendo games in boxes. This was really cool that caught my attention. This guy is selling some plushies that he actually looks like he's making right there. I was talking to him for a little bit. Plushzilla is what it's called. I said that they were like really cute looking. But yeah, he had lots of different ones here. Give me the thumbs up. I didn't think I got it the first time, so I just had him do it again. But he's got like unicorns and cats in here. So that's really cool to see. Dogs, octopuses, and flipping it around the other side, it's got more dogs and cats. All different colors. And there's some pigs on the top as well. This was really cool. Star Trek The Next Generation coloring book. We didn't buy it, but that was really cool. Luigi, Wario, Mario hats, Waluigi hat. But yeah, my wife Kathleen likes doing the coloring, but we did not purchase that one. I thought about it, but I just did not buy it. Lots of controllers, as you can see, for sale. Kathleen was telling me to get the Mario hat, but I didn't do it. A lit up Pac-Man piece of artwork there. These are like really big posters here. There's some decals as well that they had set up. So you can see they got pole position 2. Was that castles and bowling? So lots of posters you could buy, put in your game room. And then over on the side they had some arcade games you could play. These had lots of different games on them as well. But we didn't happen to play any of those. And then there were smaller posters there you could purchase. Lots of Pokemon cards if you were looking for any specific ones. Non-foil ones were 10 for $1, so those were all common cards. I just don't like going through and digging through all that stuff when I'm at conventions. So like a lot of like Game Boy games, I just don't go digging through. If they have them displayed out, that's fine. I don't even go digging through a lot of the loose games. I'll like look at them, but if there's like a ton of them, I'll kind of stay away because I know there are a lot of commons, and a lot of the games I'm looking for are kind of uncommon to more rare now that I have on my list. Lots of Sonic 3s as you could see. Here's some amiibos. You got Sonic and Mega Man, Mewtwo, Link, Bowser, Mario, Pac-Man. And I don't collect amiibos, so I didn't purchase any of those either. But they're always cool to see. Epic Gameware. This was a place where they could actually make shirts. So they had a lot of them, as you see back there, displayed. So if you wanted to pick up a shirt, that'd be something you could do. They had some already made as well, as I'm showing off here. The Wisconsin Trail, Kathleen pointed that one out to me. A lot of them I think dealt with beer because that one says you have a hangover on it. And then I moved on down here. Kathleen kept walking in my way, but she probably didn't know that I was recording. Scorpion, get over here with the beer. T-Rex can't play the pinball machine because his arms are too short. And then I switched over to the other side here, where there was a lot of, looks like board games they had, and some pixel art and some Pokemon plushies with some Pop Funko figures. I didn't purchase any plushies either. I'm looking for some for my game room, but I was mostly buying video games. This was cool, seeing this Mario Castle, and then the other one, which would have been the Gray Castle, so sometimes they have that. Uno games, Uno Super Mario, and Zelda, and Minecraft. So that was also really cool. I keep saying that's really cool. All this stuff is cool, I should be saying. Zelda, Nintendo 64. My friend Stefan actually has that one, the Pikachu Nintendo 64, which is a little bit bigger. And then you got the Spice Orange one. So there's lots of different color N64s that you can have and some different variations as well. Did not purchase those either. More plushies, Pokemon plushies here. I see Tom Nook as well. Birdo. These were all wrapped up. So it must be these were brand new ones. I see a Luigi and a Mario back there. I actually have the Luigi and Mario ones. I bought those at a game store. And this is the Portland Retro Gaming Expo area. I'd love to go there someday, but I have a fear of flying, so I don't know if I will ever make it out there or not. But they had some N64 games for sale, and I actually bought one, Duck Dodgers. Here's the DeLorean that was used in Back to the Future. I don't know if it was this specific one or not, but it has all of the gizmos and gadgets in there. I would love to own a DeLorean, but I know that they are really expensive, and I just don't have a place to store it either. But, I mean, you can just look at this. I mean, it looks like the one that was used in Back to the Future. It's got the Mr. Fusion on it. You might have saw it had the little license plate on it, too, from Back to the Future 2. And it's got some photos in here, actually, of... And it's got, like, the time all set up as well. The props from Back to the Future 2. And there's some photos you can see. Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox in those photos. And then moving on along here, this was a lady who was selling a bunch of swords and shields as well. But I'm just not interested in buying them, but they are definitely something that other people are interested in. I'm more for the video game aspect of the convention more than anything. But I thought it was definitely worth stopping and showing that they don't just sell video games here at the Midwest Gaming Classic. There are other things for sale. So as you can see, you saw Captain America's shield. There it is again. And then my personal favorite, which is down toward the end here, coming up here you'll see shortly, is the Legend of Zelda. Right there. And then you got the Ecto-1 from Ghostbusters. This one was brought in by the Ghostbusters Wisconsin team. As you can see over here on the right side, I didn't walk over there right away because these guys were having their picture taken, but they're dressed up in Ghostbusters costumes. And I don't know if you'll see them later in the video, but they were at the presentation when Ernie Hudson was there, and we were there too, and that was really cool to be able to meet Ernie Hudson. My wife, Kathleen, got a hug from him. I got to shake his hand, and she got a picture with him. I wanted to take a picture with him, but when it was my turn, I was too nervous, and so she went up instead in my place, but I at least got to shake his hand. And that was really cool meeting him. Really great that he could come to the convention and do a presentation and talk with all of us about his experience with Ghostbusters, which you'll actually hear coming up here in a little bit, because we did take some footage from him during his presentation. Got the little guys up there. I keep forgetting what game they're from. You got some Mario plushies, some creepy looking bears, and then you got some big Kirby plushies as well, and then you got some more littler ones down in the bottom. And by the way, sorry if some of the footage here is fuzzy. I forgot to let it capture everything first before I hit record. Some pixel art here, Mega Man. You got Link, the 1-up, the question mark block, Star, Pikachu. I was just feeling what it felt. I was just touching to feel what it felt like he saw Mario. Mega Man's head, the 1-up head, question mark block. Pixel art's really cool. I just don't have anywhere to display it in my game room, unfortunately. Spider-Man shirt. And they had a lot of other shirts in there as well. Kathleen and I right now are waiting to listen to Ernie Hudson's presentation, and Kathleen got a picture of him.
Yeah, and a hug.
And I got a handshake. So it's great for Ernie Hudson to come to the Midwest Gaming Classic. Thank you very much for coming. It's a great pleasure to hear you speak, sir. So the presentation is Ernie Hudson. These games are real. And it's going to last 45 minutes, and it's going to be a great 45 minutes.
What can you tell us about Ghostbusters 3?
Well, I might have to borrow one of those outfits so I can audition for it. No. I haven't seen any money, any offer, any whatever, but so I don't know anything. I know probably about as much as you got. I know what's happening. I've talked to Ivan Reitman and Jason Reitman, so I know that it's what it looks like or what it will look like. I think it will be more in line with the original movies. Paul Feig did his version, which I like, and I was a part of. But it was a little bit different. But this is something, Jason was a little kid when we did the first movie. Well, he was in the second movie. So I know he's familiar with the tone of the film, and I think it's going to be more in line with what we think of as Ghostbusters. So,
If asked, you would want to do it, of course.
is a steady paycheck in it.
So let's do this. Let's do this, okay? Let's put good vibes and positive thoughts out in the universe that this does happen. So we're gonna act right now as if we just heard the news that Ernie Hudson will be in Ghostbusters 3, okay? Oh my goodness, Ernie Hudson is confirming he's in Ghostbusters 3! Yeah!
I cannot believe finally I got paid.
Wow, and he's getting triple the salary of all his other movies combined! Yeah! Yes!
My wife is going to stay with me, and the banker is happy.
We did it! Between Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, here you guys are more familiar. Of course, you had filmed the first one before. Any fun stories from set?
No, I can't think of any, actually. Because it really, for me, acting, it really is like work. I mean, it's when it's all over, you sit back and you eat popcorn and you're there with an audience and they're enjoying it. And it's really a lot of fun. But during the shooting, it really is, you know, showing up and there's a lot of things going on. We're shooting in New York and we shot in Los Angeles. The second one was a lot easier because everybody was more familiar, but Bill Murray wasn't really happy with, I think, the second one. I think he still hates it. I personally, I made more money on the second one, so I was happy. You know, at the end of the day.
Round of applause for money.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, it just sort of eases things. You know what I mean? When you feel like, yeah, you know, I'm good, man. So, but a lot of actors are, you know, real actors, and so they have a harder time when things aren't a certain way. I don't have that problem. So, but it was the second was just a lot easier, and I think the second movie for me was more family friendly for a lot of little kids, especially who were introduced to the second movie. They probably liked it better. That first movie, which was I think brilliant, it's a little edgy there, you know. I mean, I was watching the movie, like I said, when I was in Chicago, and some of those lines, you know, it's a little, you know, it kind of goes over the head of a lot of little kids, but it's but I think the second one was probably just a lot more fun.
Next up on the docket, we're going to listen to Howard Phillips and I believe I'm going to say his name is Frank Cifaldi. They're going to be talking about the Video Game History Foundation. This is going to be really interesting. Howard Phillips worked for Nintendo back in the 90s, so another reason why I want to hear this one. It should be really cool.
So Nintendo 1981, basically when you came in, they had just shipped Donkey Kong pretty recently at that point, like July, August, something like that, right?
Yeah, we just started shipping in August. I joined in October. They've probably done maybe 1,000 at that point. And then over the next year, I shipped, myself and one other guy shipped over 60,000 of them, which, because they're 40 games in a 44 games in a 40-foot container, you know, the shipping containers, that made me, when I was 23 years old, the largest volume shipper on the entire West Coast. Because we were shipping so many containers of games through the Port of Seattle. And I think my record day was 191 40-foot containers.
That's right.
This is Lance's. Lance did the ABS design.
Right.
And then Japan said no, which pissed him off. And so he did the lunchbox design, which is what we ended up with. And this is what we then came back in the summer with. And the biggest addition there was Rob the Robot. And it looked not like, it looked more like a toy. And the fact that it had the Zapper and Rob the Robot was sufficient to kind of make it feel like, hey, this is a cool new game. It's not as simple as an Atari 2600 playing E.T. It's, you know, a cool new game, and boy, look at the graphics. It looks like the arcade games that you can play. And it has the Zapper with the V-blank technology. You guys all know how that works?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So, and it had Rob the Robot, so, which was I mean, you know, I open boxes, and when I opened the raw box, I go, well, this is kind of cool. Again, Arcala didn't tell me anything about this. And there's, you know, like 12 people in the company at the time, so everybody else is doing their stuff. So I'm the only person who's opening the boxes, plugging it in, putting batteries in the bottom of raw, and then, you know, I can see from the instructions point the diagrams of how to use it, that you point them at the screen. And then all he does is do this really noisy thing as he moves his arms.
It's just crazy slow, too.
But he looks good.
He does.
He looks good. Man, because Famicom had by now like hundreds of games, they had this super thick magazine of like 200 pages with details on all the games that were coming out, and all sorts of really small screenshots, etc., and all in Japanese. And I would get these things in a box from Japan with something that said magazine on it, and I'd go through them with a fine-tooth comb to see, you know, what was the cool new games that I might get soon. And Arakawa said, we're going to do a big magazine, and Gail said, great. And so Gail and I were co-editors on the magazine. It was pretty successful.
Yeah, it was really successful. It was only all of us read it.
Yeah.
And you became a cartoon character.
Hopefully you enjoyed listening to Ernie Hudson and Howard Phillips and Frank Cifaldi talk. We're back in the vendor hall now, and this is a really cool bowling game. Like, you take balls, you roll them up toward the screen. There's a sensor at the bottom of it that will pick up on the balls you roll. And I think during the video here, I tried it and it just did not work out. So when I wasn't, as you see, I rolled there, nothing happened. I did it again, nothing happened. And that time it actually came back at me, which was ridiculous. But the next time I did it, when nobody was recording me, it went fine. It was fine. Here's a Pong game where you use a little paddle. I wanted to actually play this, but these kids were playing for quite a long time. They even played. Yeah, they continued to play after this, so I didn't get a chance to play at all. Big Mario statue here. I did not buy him. You got some video game posters here, lots of them. Super Metroid, Earthbound, Kingdom Hearts, Donkey Kong Country, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Super Mario World, Mega Man along with Mario and Bowser and all the Nintendo characters, Zelda. And if I didn't have posters in my game room already, I would have bought some for that. Kathleen's looking at the Funko Pops. These have become pretty collectible. I do not have any. I'm sure there's people with big collections, but I'm not one of them. I must have taken a video some weird way here. But these are all kind of like rare games you can see. The little Samson there. You got some rare games in boxes. Fun and Games. Pocky and Rocky. Mega Man X 2, 3. A lot of them. Yeah, a lot of expensive ones here. Dot Hack. Quarantine. Earthbound. In the box. Alright, back to the regular resolution here. This was a stage in the vendor hall where you could listen to people play music. And they think they also had a Smash Brothers tournament here on Sunday as well. But there'd be like games up on the screen above and you could hear them play music. This was down right where you buy tickets. Midwest Gaming Classic merchandise you could be found down here to purchase. Kathleen and I we just had lunch, so we're kind of just walking around now. And we're done with the vendor hall as well. Pinball tournaments held in this section. I'm not that great at pinball, so I did not play any of those. Fighting tournaments were held over on the screens that you are looking at now. Also not that great at fighting games, so I didn't want to take my chance in that. That's one thing I didn't do. I think the only thing I didn't engage in was taking part in video game tournaments just because I didn't think I was good enough. Pat O'Malley's Star Wars Arcade located in DeKalb, Illinois. So we had a bunch of games set up in here. You could see there's some like claw games, some like skill-based games, obviously. You could grab some candy. I remember doing those back when they were at like Walmart and stuff like that. Dance Dance Revolution games are over there. You got your arcade games. NBA Jam, which I really wanted to play but didn't get an opportunity. Kathleen's like looking around at the There was Donkey Kong there. I did get a chance to play that, and I don't know why I suck at the arcade one. Stay Puft Marshmallow Man! But I sucked at Donkey Kong in the arcade, but I'm good on Nintendo. And then you got Power Stone that they're playing on the Dreamcast on a projection screen. Actually, it's not on the Dreamcast. It was on an arcade there. Guys, Games, and Beer, drink and play here as we walk in. This was another area where you could play some arcade games. They're playing Pac-Man Versus. So there'd be a person that would control... There'd be like 3 people that control Ghost, 1 person would control Pac-Man. I used to have it, but sold it because I just don't have enough people to play with. Light gun games, I did play some Time Crisis. Sit down and play some of that. I have those games at home, but I was like, yeah, what the heck, I'll play them here too. More light gun games, Sega Master System. And then over here, there's some Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis games. More gun games, gun arcade games. Big couch was over on the right side where you could sit down and play on the big screen TV. They had virtual reality over on the right-hand side. Someone's playing Beat Saber, you can see. And some people are playing some Halo LAN party here. I did play and got my butt kicked. You could play some Smash Brothers on this TV. So there was a lot going on in this room. There's the guy playing virtual reality playing Beat Saber. He just hit like the wire above him. And so, yeah, I took on most of those kids, but yeah, I was just terrible at it against them. I didn't finish last at least, but I was definitely not in the top 2 or 3. It's been a while since I played Halo as well, so maybe there's a reason why I was not so great at it. And as you can see, a lot of people are enjoying themselves and having fun. There was even a band that was playing some Mega Man music while we were in there too, so they had like Mega Man 2 playing on the screen, and somebody would be... And there was a band playing some Mega Man music. As you can see, the guys over there on the right-hand side. And there was even like a Zelda cartoon going on. Pitfall Harry, I played that. Sucked. I got eaten by a crocodile every time I got to that point. Vectrex here. Pretty rare console. Not this one. That's like in the Atari flashback. There's your Vectrex right there. A couple of them set up, it looked like. And then over here on the end, you got Virtual Boy. I actually hooked up to the TV, and I did better looking at the TV than I did in the goggles. So I don't know why. This was a very fierce air hockey game. I mean, this was an actual like air hockey tournament between like a couple of really good ladies here. I mean, this was just ferocious action back and forth here. I mean, just look at the velocity they have on these shots, too. And I don't know if they're reaching over that line or not, but I mean, they're like literally getting into this. They're using like their whole like body, their arms and their legs, and just really going at here. And you can see too, it's not like just hitting it back and forth. I mean, they stop it a little, well, not completely stop it because you can't completely stop it, but just kind of going back and forth, and then they whip it down on the other end. And I'm sure if I like took on one of these ladies, I would lose like immediately. And I think right now she just took a timeout for a little bit. Like you could take a timeout if you wanted to during the game. And they're playing like different sets too. So think of it like tennis. Like, you know, first 1 to 7 wins is, you know, that set. And yeah, and there you go. There's a timeout right there. I mean, you can tell they're like sweating. I mean, they're wiping themselves off. I mean, that's how intense this is. And so this was coming up on the end of this set right here. So this clip, unfortunately, I'm sorry, is a little long, but you get to see like professional air hockey players play, which, I mean, you wouldn't think like there would be professional air hockey players there. I think that was the end of the set, and they're switching sides now. All right, going into Rob Anthony's Pinball Classics. So there was pinball games you could play. There was also pinball equipment you could buy if you needed them. So you could see there's a lot of pinballs. If you need them, you can get them. I think they had the Ghostbusters one here. There's the one. It does have Ernie Hudson on it. They did talk about how he was left off of like some things, and like the second Ghostbusters movie, he's completely left off the cover. But that's the Ghostbusters video game. And then there's Popeye pinball there. And Kathleen and I went over and we played this one, Star Trek Next Generation. I mean, why not? Huge Star Trek fan. Why not play this one? And like I said, I'm not that great of a pinball player. The ball always seems to go down on the side for me. But, I mean, we definitely enjoyed playing that. All right, next up, Nintendo Age. There's a Super Mario World pinball game. Did not get a chance to play that. We just kind of walked around this room. Didn't really play anything in here. I mean, when I thought Nintendo Age, I was thinking like you know, lots of different like Nintendo games you could play. But really, it was mostly, I think, like homebrews and hacks you could find in here. More than anything, like newer type stuff that has been brought out for Nintendo recently. Although that one hasn't. That is Rad Racer that you could play, and of course a lot of people in here playing. And there's like Nintendo cards there. I think those were, you could take it if you wanted, but I did not take any because I was not sure about that. And more Nintendo games. The guy in the corner over there is playing Tetris, and that's if you wanted to play like, I think, tic-tac-toe or something. Tailgate Party is what it's called, but it uses the power pad, and it uses like the beanbags you would see for cornhole. So that's a more recent one, and it gets good use out of the power pad too, something that was, an accessory that was not utilized, you would say, a whole lot. So going through here, I think, yeah, these are a lot of homebrews and hacks you could like see, and I'm sorry that the camera wasn't really focused. Some strange and odd controllers here, as you can see. Sega Saturn 3D controller in the middle that you would use for Nights into Dreams. As you can see, it's strange and odd controllers. And here's a few odd systems too. You got the Sega Nomad. This one and that one was officially released. That is a handheld game where you could play your Genesis games. You got some Game Boys there too. This one, the guy turned it on. He turned both of them on so I could film them. But that's a Sony PlayStation, and I was wondering how in the world did somebody make a portable Sony PlayStation? It's like it's got the analog sticks, as you could see, start, select, directional pad. Well, he told me then, if you flip it over, there's a PlayStation 1 right there, and it's like, oh, okay, that's how it's made then, because I was thinking like you put the disc in like some way and it just feeds it in there, but no, actually the top would come off of that. And as you can see, the Sega Nomad, that's Gunstar Heroes, one of the great games for the Genesis. And so I filmed a little bit of each of the screens. So yeah, I mean the Sega Nomad screen looks pretty good. So does the Sony PlayStation as well. Now on to Bit Built Experience. So they had Mechasalt, not Mechasalt, geez. I can't even think of the name of the game right now, but the one where you use a mech and you go around, and it tells you all the controls to use. So this, gosh, for some reason the name of the game is just escaping me. I wish I could just, look it up right now, but unfortunately with me narrating this I can't. Now you got Underdog Chamber. But yeah, they had like 3 or 4 of those you could set up in there, and or that you could play that, and there was a guy like telling everybody how to like play it. So Underdog Chamber, just a bunch of like, think about like games you don't think about. Or no, Underdog Chamber, I'm sorry, was the one. Bit Built was actually the PlayStation 1, and the PlayStation, the odd controllers, the Nomad. And then Underdog Chamber was the one with all the mech games, and people were playing Quake in there. Now we're in a room called Future Classics, and so these are games, think about it, they're not classics now, but think about it in the future, maybe like 10 years down the road, 15 years they would be. Like, so like games that are made now, there's a bunch of like, a guy had a bunch of BB-8s. This was where you could play some virtual reality too. So think about like 10 or 15 years from now, you're going to have like early virtual reality games, and then you're going to have like think about even better, more immersed or virtual reality games later down the road. It's hard to imagine right now, but think probably like what you see with your own eyes, that could be virtual reality later on, like that real. So I got to play some virtual reality. I thought I wasn't going to get to, but there were a couple of kids that did end up leaving. It was actually funnier to watch these kids play Job Simulator, I think, than was for me to play it. It was enjoyable. And then you see someone playing Beat Saber as well. But it was like more enjoyable, I think, to have them. So I just played virtual reality
Play
for the
than it
first
was to
time,
watch
just
me play,
behind
which
me,
was
right
fun.
here on the TV. Well, it was displayed on the TV. I didn't get dizzy or anything at all. I was playing Job Simulator, just doing the store clerk job, like I was roasting hot dogs and burritos, and I melted popsicles and threw pop and squirted it all over the place. Burned cheese. I threw a bunch of things all over the place. It was fun. It was crazy. It was a blast. First time ever doing it. And even as simple as a game as a Job Simulator, I was thrilled by it. I think I had more fun though watching the kids goof off. When I was doing it, I was like, I had the controls down right away, knew what to do, and could grasp everything pretty well. So yeah, it was just a blast to do it. Glad that I was able to have that experience doing it here at the Midwest Gaming Classic. So day one of the Midwest Gaming Classic was a lot of fun. Just to recap, Kathleen and I walked around the entire vendor hall, and we're really happy that we this year stayed for 2 days, that we're going to go Saturday and Sunday. So this is going to be like a break between the 2 days. I'm going to recap what games we ended up buying from the vendor hall. Last year when we went for only 1 day, we felt like really rushed to try to do everything that we wanted to do in that day. And in my opinion, to get the best experience, you ought to do it for Saturday and Sunday. And if you can go on Friday as well, so it's kind of like a VIP show they do on Friday. We didn't get a chance to go to that, but it's definitely, I would recommend that you do that if you want to do the Midwest Gaming Classic, is attend every day or at least Saturday and Sunday. We went through the vendor hall, did not feel rushed at all. Took a break, went down and listened to Ernie Hudson talk about his career with Ghostbusters and his other acting jobs, and give us some insights. He told us about what his life was like, and if you ever want to do anything in life, that you should, you got to prepare yourself for it. You can't just go into doing something unprepared. It's basically like studying for a test. If you don't study for a test, you're more than likely not going to do well. It's like that. You prepare yourself for this, and he prepared himself for acting, and loved seeing him in Ghostbusters. That's what I remember him from, is Winston Zeddemore in 1 and 2, and the Ghostbusters video game that came out for the 360. It was fantastic meeting him. Got to shake his hand, and my wife Kathleen got to get a photo opportunity with him as well. We actually did that before he actually ended up talking. We actually went down there to wait, saw him, and just kind of like, there was a bunch of people huddled around him. We were able to get in there, and Kathleen was actually the last one to get her photo taken with him before he had to go off somewhere before the panel took place. Then we went up and we got lunch, came down again, and listened to Howard Phillips talk about his early days at Nintendo, which was really interesting. He got to work in the warehouse with the arcade cabinets, and he said, Nintendo was very small back in the day. They had like 30 employees. There weren't like games around the office where you would play them. And when Nintendo started marketing their NES, and then he got to play all the games, and then after that became, it just became, these game counselors that you could call. Then the Nintendo Power magazine ended up forming, and it was just really neat hearing from Mr. Phillips talk about his career at Nintendo. And now I forgot the other guy that he was with, but they're working on a video game history type museum out in San Francisco, which is really, really cool. Not just with video games, like the games itself, but like stuff like Howard Phillips had like notes where he reviewed like all the like 50 games that were, or 500 plus games he played for Nintendo. So notes like that will be there, game source codes, things like that. So not just games, but like all these other things that you would associate with games as well. So that's really cool. Then we went down, did the rest of the vendor hall, came back downstairs again, and went through some areas where they had pinball games and arcade games you could play. And then like there was a room called Future Classics, and I actually got to experience VR, which was awesome. Never have I done VR before, and for the first time I got to try it out, and played Job Simulator, which, to tell you the truth, watching the kids play it was a lot funnier than having me play it, because they didn't send me through the tutorial. Because I was able to figure out the controls like immediately, how to grab things, and then, I'm shaking Pop-Up and roasting cheese on the hot dog grill, and doing a lot of funny things really. And I should have done like some like little missions, you would say, with customers, and that I think would have been a little bit better, because after I got through everything, it's like I had a couple minutes left. I'm just like, okay, there's not much for me left to do here. I was goofy, but I don't think as goofy as the kids were. So that was fun. We're gonna go back. You'll see in the second part of the video, we're gonna look at the video game museum in the arcade area, and then head back home to Michigan. So let's go over what we bought. I was able to stay in budget, didn't spend over the amount of money that I brought, which was good. I actually had a couple of extra dollars left over, so that was good. Excuse me while I quench my thirst. So these will be in no particular order, but I got a copy of Duck Dodgers. I saw a copy of this earlier there at the show from another vendor, but the condition of it, the game, I don't think was the greatest, and also it was a little higher priced. This one I got just a little bit lower price, and it's in very good condition as well. I've actually seen this at a game store around my area, but part of the label is actually missing on it. And I'm always one of those guys, or always one of those collectors, I should say, that always wants things nice and pristine and looking good. So I had to make sure this has a good label to it. And that makes it where I'm only looking for, I think, 3 more Nintendo 64 games. There was another one I was looking for there, Magical Tetris. I asked them about it, and they actually had sold it earlier in the day, so I was like, oh, darn it. But there's that one, and there's like the second Bomberman game, and Stunt Racer. I'm not looking for a complete collection, just games I'm looking for to add to my collection. So there's only a few more 64 games left. My wife Kathleen picked up this. This was Super Caesar's Palace. If we actually picked this up at the first vendor we were at, we actually waited a little bit longer. We could have got this from other vendors complete in box. So it's okay though, not that big of a deal. It's not like I can go back to the vendor and be like, oh, I found it complete in box somewhere else, kind of my money back. Things don't work like that. So I mean, that's fine. If we find a complete in box copy later on down the road, that's fine. This one, I've had so much trouble finding this, and it's a Kirby game. But Kirby Canvas Curse. So with this one, you use the stylus with the DS that goes with it to help you with going through the levels. So that's really good that I was able to get this, because a lot of the DS games I'm looking for now are, for me, just harder ones to find. I guess like the stores in my area, I guess, are kind of dried up with the good ones. So I've been going a little bit outside of my area, maybe in about an hour radius or so, trying to go to different stores looking for games. And here's another example. You got Bomberman for the DS. So you've got over like 100 plus, levels on here. And it looks like, Bomberman from, I would say, graphics from like Super Nintendo era. So this is really fun. I'm a big fan of Bomberman games. My wife Kathleen got me as a present this past year Bomberman 2 for the NES, complete in box, which, oh gosh, that just blew me away. All right, picked up Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. I don't know why I've had trouble finding this one, but this is one of the best Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games, so I had to make sure I picked that up for my collection. Not the greatest at this game, but I'm sure if I get the handle of it and play it a little bit, I'll be pretty good at it. A NASCAR game. Usually I don't pick up a lot of NASCAR games since I got all the ones I'm looking for, except for this one. This is the Days of Thunder edition. And I didn't realize this, but it actually has the movie on the disc as well. So that's really cool. I've never seen Days of Thunder before, so I can watch that, and I can play the game as well. The reason why I kind of got it is because you start as an amateur driver. It kind of reminds me of going through like NASCAR Chase for the Cup, where you start in the lowest series possible, and also NASCAR Dirt to Daytona with the same kind of aspect. I like NASCAR games where you can start right away in the Monster Cup series, but it's nice to work your way up through the series. Kind of like with the NASCAR Heat games they've come out with now as well. I got Pac-Man World 2 for the PlayStation 2. I had this with Pac-Man Versus on the same disc for the GameCube, but I read into Pac-Man Versus, and you need like the link cable to go with the Game Boy Advance, and then you need like a few other players to play it with, and it's just me and my wife at home. So I sold that one off and was thankfully able to find a version of Pac-Man World 2 by itself. And I have the other ones for the same system, so it's good. I'll have all the Pac-Man World games for the same system. Got myself a Wii U game. I was actually looking for this for the PS4, but I never saw it today for that. Only saw it for the Wii U, so I picked it up, and that's Shovel Knight. We're definitely, it's an 8-bit type of game. Reminds me of the old days of playing, like, I would say like Mega Man. It kind of reminds me of that type of game. Mario as well, definitely. So I'm looking forward to playing me some Shovel Knight. And I know they just came out with this for the Switch, or not just came out with it, but it's been out for the Switch, but I wanted to get it on the Wii U, and that's Pokken Tournaments. So this is like fighting, with your Pokemon, and think of it like Pokken as like Tekken, I guess. That's why it's called Pokken. And another great game for the GameCube I picked up, one I passed up on one time, and I think it was because it had a bad label with it, but this one was in excellent condition. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg, and it's from the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog. It's a weird game, I would say, definitely, for the GameCube. But, it's definitely underrated, I would say, as a game on the GameCube. So it's definitely one I would pick up and play. It's going to be loads of fun. All right, and then the last game I got 2 accessories as well after this. But I got myself a copy of Virtual Cop. I didn't have Virtual Cop in the long box. I had it just as I had the pack-in one that just came in a regular CD case, and I wanted to get the long box copy. So I ended up finding one today, and this was at like one of the first vendors we went to, and so I made sure to pick myself up a copy, because I think with the Saturn ones, I want to make sure I get them, all the ones I'm looking for, in long boxes like this. It would display nicer to have them, like all of them except for one game, just be the pack-in game in just a regular CD case. So I don't know if Virtual Cop is just harder to find because of that in the long box or not, because it was a pack-in game. But I decided to pick those up. And then these 2 just came out recently, actually at the end of March. These are both from Retrobit, and these are fully licensed by Sega as well. Sega Saturn controllers and Sega Genesis controllers. Now I was going to purchase these online at some point, but when I saw them at the show, I was like, I can get them right here in person. I can't pass this up. This is a great thing. These cost $20. These were $15. It's a pretty dang good deal, especially because Sega Saturn controllers can be really, really expensive, and the Genesis controllers can be a little cheaper than this one. But definitely getting brand new ones, that's a big, big plus. So I'm really happy to have those in my collection. So now, for the rest of the video, you're going to see us at the arcade and at the Video Game Museum. Should be loads of fun. So this is day 2 of the Midwest Gaming Classic, and we are in the Video Game Museum and the arcade area. And there is a full, complete copy of the entire NES boxed library on display inside the convention center, which was a really cool thing. So we're going through right now and showing you all the boxes. Kathleen was pointing to a puzzle game, saying that was a game she would like. So as you can see, there's Flintstones and Dino Peak, a really obviously rare game. DuckTales 2 as well. Fire and Ice. And just to see all the artwork on all the boxes is like really cool too. I mean, just the amazing artwork that they did back in the day. Darkwing Duck, there's a game I own. Donkey Kong Classics. Sorry if I don't, stay on them too long. I'm trying to just pan through all of them as we go through here. Power Blade, Paperboy. NES Open in there. Ninja Gaiden. And over here you see some more. Shatterhand. That was one I was kind of trying to think it was rare. I don't know if Power Plays were stadium events. You saw that down there. There's there's one of the rarest games ever. Star Trek and Star Trek Next Generation. I happen to own the Star Trek one. Next Generation I have on Super Nintendo. There's Super Mario Brothers games 2 and 3. And you could go around back and look at them too, but I was just getting the front covers. Tailspin in there. Tiny Toon Adventures and Tiny Toon Adventures in Wacky Land. I have the Tiny Toon first one in the box, not the second one. Wario's Woods, that was the last game ever released for the NES. Officially released. Wacky Races. Made the mistake of selling that game in the box. I should never have done that. I feel really bad to this day of selling that. I'm looking to get another copy again at some point. Life Force. See a little Samson in there. There's a game I would definitely like to own. Not because it's rare, but because I've heard it's a really good game to play. See Mega Man and Mega Man 2 in there. Metal Storm. Mario's Time Machine, Mario's Missing. There's the rest of the Mega Man games. I happen to have number 6 in the box. I think I also have number 3 in the box. I do own all of them. Just a couple in the box, though. Kid Clown. There's another rare title. Incredible Crash Dummies. Didn't even realize it actually came out for the NES. I own it for the Genesis. I happen to have Ice Hockey. Not obviously a rare title, but, just a really cool one. There were some guys in the way there, so then I had to wait a little bit. There's the black box games. There were some in the beginning you saw as well. So I obviously started at the back of the alphabet, worked my way up. I have Adventures of Lolo, I think the second one in the box. No instruction booklet, though. Base Wars. I'm terrible at that game. Bases Loaded 3. That was one of my favorite NES games to play as a kid. Bomberman. Bomberman 2, you see down there. Bonk's Adventure. Bubble Bobble Part 2. Bucky O'Hare. Bubble Bobble. All some really good ones. Castlevania. And then they had some more items on display here too. Nintendo PlayStation. Rob the Robot. Some not for resale Super Nintendo games you see there. One's is Yoshi's Island and a Street Fighter, Ken Griffey Jr. Baseball, Tetris Attack, a Donkey Kong. There's a Dreamcast with I don't know what's hooked up to it. An Earthbound in the box. More Rob the Robots. And here's some of the systems they had displayed there. First row of games were all light gun games. Going through. The Sega CD was acting up, so it was put in timeout. I thought that was kind of funny. I think you could play some Time Crisis. There's some Wii shooters. Yoshi Safari. That's actually pretty fun to play. Some Xboxes. I think they had Virtual Cop 3 on there. They had Virtual Cop, Wild Gunman. With the Sharp TV too. So that was cool, although one of the legs was broken, but they said that's pretty common that you find those broken. I think the Nintendo historian talked about that in his video. So lots of light gun games here, as you can see. And playing more recent light gun games. Now we got your arcade sticks. Playing your fighters, Soul Calibur 2. That's a Dreamcast fighter. Couldn't read the title there. I was trying to remember, going through his film, this kind of remembering what was there. That was like Tekken 3. And I got your fighters on your big screen TV. That definitely looks like Dragon Ball Z. And they had all kinds of different, TVs here, small TVs, big TVs that you could play on. Lots of different arcade stick fighters hooked up. Got a Sega Saturn one there. A couple of guys playing here. That looks like an arcade stick for the Xbox. Lots of these arcade sticks I've never even seen before. I have the NES and Super NES and Genesis sticks, but that's about it. More on this side, as you can see, going along here. Like I said, all kinds of different TVs hooked up. And some systems I don't even recognize. So yeah, just lots of fun that you can see people having playing. There's Street Fighter. So yeah, it's really cool to just, see everyone playing and enjoying these games too. Especially on Sunday here, this was Kids Day. So like I think it was kids 9 and under get in free, or Family Day I should say. So kids 9 and under could get in for free. So that was definitely, a cool thing. So parents can bring their kids and say, hey, look, this is why you get to play. And there's Magical Chase. There's a rare game for the TurboGrafx. I think that says Blazing Lasers there. And there's a Famicom in there, the original Nintendo that was released in Japan before we got it as what I like to call it, the toaster. Now that was a Dreamcast you saw there. Now you got your shooters. There's UN Squadron, a game I have and I love, but I need to get better at because I lose very early on in that game. So you got vertical shooters, you got horizontal shooters here for display. And like I said, it's just really cool to see all these people playing it. So it's not just, you see people playing modern games nowadays. You get, people get to experience these retro games too. Now, this is actually, I think, going into the classics. You got I think that was a Super Nintendo Classic Edition. So not only did you have your shooters row, but this is also the Classic Editions row too, I believe. There's Street Fighter 2. And that was I think that was an At Games Genesis Classic. You got a Super Nintendo Classic, NES Classic that has Mario Brothers on the screen right now. And of course, an Atari Flashback and a Commodore 64 Mini. So and they're coming out with a Sega Genesis one this year that they're doing officially right as well. Now I think we are on the NES row, or maybe this is the platforming row. Well, nope, still a shooter there. So, never mind. I think that was the Master System. That looked like Joust. There's Mega Man 2. I stopped and played here for a little bit. The person was down to 1 life, and I got at least a few bosses beat. Mario 3, I stopped and played some. I think I stopped and played. No, I didn't stop and play that one. And then you had Mario 2, and then you had Mario Brother The Lost Levels. I did play that, and I sucked immediately. Moving on, we've got Bomberman 93, awesome game. I ended up getting that on the Wii Virtual Console, so I could play that, since I don't own the console that it's originally on. There's Bonk's Adventure, which, same thing, Wii Virtual Console. I got that on. And there's, I think, Ghosts and Goblins. And you can correct me wrong in the comments if I get any of these games wrong. There looks like Gunstar Heroes. One of the greatest Genesis games. No slowdown either going along. That looks like Streets of Rage. So this might be like a Genesis row here. Comic Zone. Yeah, this definitely looks like a Sega Genesis row. NBA Jam. Would love to play that. I don't know if the person would have let me play 2-player with them. Probably have kicked my butt if they did. There's a Pioneer Laserdisc. And my science teacher actually owned one of those. And he showed us like Laserdiscs. He'd bring out these big discs and we're like, whoa, those are huge. Not like, they don't look... They look like records, but they look like DVDs at the same time because of the back of them. Playing some, looks like Sonic CD there. And then that's Sonic on the Sega Game Gear being ported onto a TV. It looks really different. Everything looks really enlarged on that, obviously. Since they're using like a Retron console, looks like. Donkey Kong Country. Kathleen and I played for this for a little bit, and we beat the whole game here at home, but we could not beat anything there, unfortunately. Not even one level. Super Mario Kart. Looks like some Kirby there. And then Hotel Mario, which I played for a little bit and sucked again at that game. Looks like that is Bust-A-Move. Got some arcade baseball here. Love some arcade baseball on older systems. Although Base Wars I'm not good at, so I don't play that one. I get down like 10-0 in the first inning. It's pretty bad. That might have been Road Rage. I'm not exactly positive. If you look above the TV, they all have like little cards above it, so I think it describes the system or the game that's being played on that TV at the time. There's Panzer Dragoon for the Sega Saturn. That's a pretty fun game. I haven't beat it yet, but it's definitely fun. I just was playing it out to try it at my house since I own the game. And I did beat a few levels, but turned off the game after a while, just so I could go do something else. But I will go back and beat it sometime. Girl playing Virtual Boy. I did not play Virtual Boy this day. I figured I had enough the day before. GoldenEye 007, which I went back in here and they had one of the profiles had the Egyptian level on it. And I've never played the Egyptian level before. And let's just say I got my butt kicked. There was a Pippin, an Apple Pippin. That was a failed system. Some Sega Dreamcast. More Dreamcast. Looks like this is more like Dreamcast Row here, kind of. I don't know what that system was on top exactly. Just scrolling down, I think we're in PlayStation 2 era games. There's a GameCube. Yep, definitely some GameCube controllers it looks like. Super Monkey Ball. A really tough game, but fun. Here's Outrun for the Xbox. Sat down and played that for a little bit. Was literally right in front of the finish line when it failed me. I could not believe it. I was so close to winning, but fell probably just a few yards short of victory. Cuphead. Still want to get that game. I have not yet purchased it, and the kid died as I was watching. That is a tough game from what I've heard, but it's a game that I think I would have a lot of fun with since I beat all the Mega Man games, and those are tough. I think I would have some fun playing that, although I would definitely get frustrated as well. There's no doubt about it, but that's why you play it. You get good at it, and then you can beat it. Rocket League. Also another, game I have not played yet. But I have these newer consoles, so I can do that. The only thing I don't own is a Switch. And I did not get to play any Nintendo Switch while I was here. There's Super Mario, I believe Strikers Charged on the Wii. And there's your Mario Kart on the Switch right there. There was definitely a lot of people around it. So I knew people were waiting. And I could have waited. We had the time. But I was just like, let's just keep moving on. And some Smash Brothers as well. Maybe everyone was really waiting for Smash Brothers instead of Mario Kart. But whatever. Star Wars Episode 1 Racer. I played that on the Dreamcast. I think that's the better version than the N64. Super Star Wars. You had Lego Star Wars. This was the Star Wars row. So if you wanted to play a Star Wars video game, they had an entire row set up for them as well. Star Wars, I don't know which one that was. That looked like TIE Fighter, from what it said on top of the screen. I think you had Jedi Knight. You had the Rogue games on the GameCube. Star Wars Battlefront. And then you had wrestling games as well. That was kind of set up in the same row. They had some wrestling panels. I think a couple announcers had come in. So that's why I think they had this kind of set up. And there was a guest over just off the camera on the side to my left. Now we're at the pinball games, and Kathleen is playing Star Trek pinball game. I got a chance to play it as well. Just showing around everything here. There's a lot of pinball games to be played. So you could find your favorite pinball game, wait in line, play it. We just happen to walk around and find the Star Trek one. Like I said, lots of kids and parents playing games throughout the day as well, getting them a chance to experience pinball. Now we're at the old computers part of the Video Game Museum. And lots of these, I don't know. I'm more familiar with video game consoles than I am computers. So I am not by any means a computer expert. Although I believe that might be I'm not going to take a guess. But that's Oregon Trail. My wife Kathleen was waiting to play that. And she got to play that and did end up winning. She took over for the people that were actually playing. And yes, I'm sorry I'm going through this very, very fast. It's just that I don't know much about computers. I mean, it's definitely really cool that they have all these old computers here. It's a part of, the video game history, definitely. Over on the side I was recording, there was tournaments going on. That's, like I said, the one thing I did not enter myself into at the Midwest Gaming Classic. And I think the only reason why I did not do that was because I just didn't think I was good enough to be in a tournament. But, I could have tried at least, and if I lost early, oh well, it's not that big of a deal. And, it's really nice too that, for this museum, it's interactive. You don't just look at the computers. You don't look at the video game systems. You actually get to go around, physically touch these, and physically play them. There's an Atari 2600 with Pitfall on it. I did not play that day because of the fact I lost the day before. Pac-Man, that's an Atari system. See, the Atari 2600 was there because Atari had computer systems as well. There's Donkey Kong. I think that was in television, I believe. Guitar Hero. And that guy's really good if you can't tell. I think he's playing Through the Fire and Flames, by the way. I think that's what he was playing. That I recognized the music as I was walking by. Donkey Kong again. So a lot of Donkey Kongs you could play. That looks like River Raid on another Atari system. But like I said, it's really cool that, you could interact with these and not just, walk by and they're behind a glass. Like, you could actually play these. So you get to interact with, pieces of history or, pieces of software that may be 40 years old or more. And, for them to be, there's a Vectrex, I should say, and for them to be maintained and still working is just a great achievement. Because someday, these things might not exist and may no longer work. And now you get into the really old stuff. So you're getting down to like Pong down here, which, Kathleen and I did end up playing. I always love playing Pong. I mean, it's an old, right there. We played that one, and I won 15-9. And then you get to see all the old, like how the cartridges have advanced. And, all the way up to the 64, and then they went to basically everything was discs, and the Switch has gone back to, cartridges. So that's really cool. And then some old handhelds. There was some Odyssey there too. Now we're going through the rest of the arcade, and a lot of the pinball was over in this section too. Lots of older pinball games were over here too. I mean, not just like your new ones with the fancy graphics and lights that would go off, but like old ones that would be like ding, ding, ding that you would hear, back, when arcades were first coming out. Lots of light gun shooters over there. That's Time Crisis 4. I would love to get a chance to play that at the arcade, but I did not. They did have a Halo game that had a big line, and I did not play it at first, but then Kathleen was taking a long time with Oregon Trail, so I ended up going back, waiting in line, and did get a chance to play. I played one mission because there was a line. Sitting down in my game room. My wife and I made it home safely from Milwaukee from the Midwest Gaming Classic 2019 edition. Thank you to Dan Luzin and his entire staff for putting together the Midwest Gaming Classic. Thank you to all the guests for coming and talking to everyone that was interested at the show, to everyone that competed in tournaments, to everyone who brought I mean, there's too many thank yous here to all the vendors for coming in, willing to sell games to people that are looking for them, to people that want to play tabletop games, to the food vendors, to the people that brought their pinball machines, their arcade machines, to them getting the video game museum set up. So anybody that had to bring a piece for that, every guest that was there, like I mentioned, people that talked, people that had presentations, I should say, people that brought there was some arcades there, like I said, or not just arcade machines, but there was like a arcade from part of an arcade from DeKalb, Illinois, Nintendo age, to everybody that was there, everybody that attended. Sunday was great. Saw a lot of families with their kids, so you get to see the next generation of gamers come into being. I mean, there's just too many thank yous to go along. I think this was our fourth year going to the convention, and when I heard about it the first year, I really was just interested in going and purchasing games. And I did check out the arcade and the video game museum, but I was really just interested in buying games. The second year, kind of the same thing, although I got more interested in the arcades and the video game museum. When they moved to Wisconsin Center, I made sure to check everything out, although I didn't hear any presentations last year. But this year, with Ernie Hudson and Howard Phillips wanting to listen to their presentations, it was great. The Midwest Gaming Classic offers so much. Kids get to learn about old games and new games. So you got a new generation of gamers that are going to learn the history of games and play these games. And it's not just a video game museum that's there to look at. These kids can interact with it. They can play arcade games, and take games home with them and play with them as well. That's great for people like me who want to go and purchase games, are looking for their collections. People get to go learn things with presentations, compete in tournaments, interact with a lot of people over the weekend. It's a great event. It keeps on growing, and I can't thank the Midwest Gaming Classic and their staff enough for putting this on. And I'm excited for 2020 already. I'm hoping it's going to be bigger and better than what it was this year. So I look forward to it. This is Michael Allen signing out for the 2019 Midwest Gaming Classic. Hopefully you liked the video, me going through and showing things, highlights of the convention from my point of view, going through and showing the museum, arcade, the vendor hall, some highlights from Ernie Hudson and Howard Phillips, their presentations, and any other thing that I showed off as well. So everybody take care, and see you next year at the 2020 Midwest Gaming Classic.